Hey everybody, Randy Patterson here again with Boomerocity. As you already know, we love the blues at Boomerocity. So it's no surprise that I've got yet another great blues artist who, honestly, I'm embarrassed to say I'm just now interviewing, but I've been following him for years. He's a great musician, especially on the Hammond B3. His name is Bruce Katz. You may know him from his work with Greg Allman, with Delbert McClinton, and many others. The guy is phenomenal. So if you love the blues, you're definitely want to listen to this interview and catch his new album by the Bruce Katz Band titled Connections. You see the album covers behind me. So as always, I ask that you subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching or listening to it from. Like it, share it, and please just subscribe because, it doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us out a lot. So it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much in advance. So without any further ado, here's my first interview with the legendary Bruce Katz. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care. Bruce, it's a pleasure to finally get to meet you. I've been tracking you for a few years now, and you've been on my radar to interview, and the stars aligned just right, and here we are. So thank you for taking the time.
Sure thing. Are you from, do you live in Knoxville?
I actually live in Sevierville, just outside of Knoxville, up in the Smoky Mountains.
You're going to come to the gig, I hope?
I am. That's next Friday. Yep.
Yeah, next Friday.
How's the post-pandemic world treating you as far as the career goes? Is everything back to normal for you?
Yeah, everything's pretty back to normal, man. It was a rough year and a half or so. Didn't do anything. But yeah, we started touring actually fairly early on. I think we started doing some shows in like May or June of 2021 before a lot of other people were out. Of course, we came back from one of those tours. We all had COVID. But we were all vaccinated and we just, nobody got sick. But yeah, no, we're out and about, it's what I really like to do. I've been doing it for so long and I still like it. Driving around in a van and playing shows all over the country. You'd think I'd be sick of it like some people I know, but I'm not. I love doing it.
Talking about all that, I mean, I don't think fans really realize what artists have to go through to perform. And I'm not a musician. I don't sing or anything like that, but I have an appreciation. I've been doing this long enough to know and witness what you guys have to go through just to entertain us. But you did a video, if I'm remembering correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, you did a video 11, 12 years ago, maybe, showing how you single-handedly load your rig into a trailer. Am I remembering that correctly?
Well, it might have been, there was a sort of a documentary made almost 20 years ago by this Canadian filmmaker that followed me on a Southern tour. And it was called Soul Searching for the Blues. And there was a whole plot line with this Canadian young musician came along and we did double bills and they followed us all over the South. And in that video, there was definitely some loading in and out of trailers. I've never done one where I said, here's how we do it or anything now.
No, well, I want to say, I'm pretty sure it was you. Maybe it was someone else, but I remember watching just in awe. I mean, the Hammond B3 and everything, and it was showing how you kind of bundled it, and then you just ramped that thing right up into the trailer or the truck or whatever it was, and might have been a cube truck or something. I was just blown away by how nimble you handled that thing. So,
well, when you have the right kind of dollies, which are these roller carry professional piano moving dollies that Hammond players use, and you have a ramp, you can do it. The problem is staircases.
Oh yeah.
That's the problem. That's when digital organs really come in handy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're traveling around and, like you were saying about what it takes to go out on tour. I mean, I've done a lot of tours with my own band where we're in a van and we're driving around. I've done tours with people like Greg Allman and Delbert McClinton, and we're in a bus. But even when you're in a bus, there's about, 18 hours of utter boredom for that 2 hours of fun where you're
Hmm.
sitting around doing nothing or driving, or sitting in hotel rooms staring at nothing. And, but it's worth it, you know? Yeah, and you do get to see the world. I mean, I've seen so much of the world. It's great, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I even love going to Des Moines and seeing Des Moines, you know?
Yep. In the
Um,
wintertime, no doubt. So
yeah, well, no, I learned a long time ago to stay out of the Midwest in January and February
that's right.
after a number of death-defying incidents in vans with trailers in, like, Iowa in January, man.
Well,
I
it's not any more fun, as you know, even flying during those times, so it's
Yeah, right, exactly. But, yeah, I love playing, and I don't mind all the hassle that we have to do to get to that next show. Sometimes people audiences will go see a show and they'll go, "Boy, man, so and so, he didn't seem to have any energy. I think he kind of sucks now or something." And they don't realize that maybe he got no sleep the night before because he was sitting in an airport or drove 11 hours and just that night happens to be tired. So I say to your audience, give your favorite artist, cut them some slack if they seem tired sometime. Of course, most people that I know, myself included, it just doesn't matter how tired I am. When it's showtime.
that's
And
right.
I get the burst of energy. I mean, sometimes the best shows are when I haven't slept at all.
Oh,
True.
wow.
No, it's true, actually. It is true. I remember once doing an album with a great guitar player who was in my band for a while named Mike Williams. And
Mhm.
we had David Fathead Newman as a guest for this album, and I was in Europe the day before,
Oh,
and
gosh.
and the day before, if I remember right, yes, we were in Holland, but my flight was in Belgium, so they drove me to Belgium, dumped me at the airport at 3 o'clock in the morning. I sat at the airport until the airplane took off, so there was no sleep, and that was it. At the end of a very tiring tour, there was no sleep. I flew into Boston. I was met at the plane, taken to the recording studio directly, and then played some of the best stuff I could ever remember playing.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it's because you're so all of your preconceptions and safeguards are gone because you're in this other consciousness or something. I don't know. I don't know.
Interesting.
But I've heard
Never
other people. I've heard other musicians say the same thing. You know.
I
Who are-
we and again, that's another thing that fans don't even have a clue about, and you guys make it look so easy. Maybe that's part of the issue is we look at something and go, I can do that. And then you sit down at a keyboard or a guitar or drums or whatever, and you go, all right, well, now what?
Right.
But you guys just pull it right out from under you because it's so intuitive. It's so in your DNA that it just can't help but come out as how it looks like to me as a fan.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when you've been playing for decades and decades, you're pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
At it.
I
You know.
You mentioned Delbert. I think I saw you. The first time I saw Delbert was I think it was around 2014. That was around the time you were playing with him, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was with him like from 2011 to 14, and we
Okay,
did
maybe
play
maybe
a couple of times.
yeah, I know he was. I think the first time I saw him in concert, I interviewed him a time or two. And one of the time, I think the first time I interviewed him, right after they came to Knoxville to the Bijou, and
Right.
I'm trying to think if you were playing with him at that point or not. It may have been late in the year, maybe you'd already left. I don't know, but
I did play the Bijou with him a couple of times. I,
okay, well then, odds are you're right. I was backstage with him. We probably bumped into each other. I got a picture of me and him laughing. And I think I said something inappropriate or something that he liked, but I don't know.
right.
So
I was gonna say you can't say anything inappropriate around Delbert.
I bet. I'm sure that's the case.
He's the
What?
funniest man in the world.
Hey, this new album, man. Tell me about it. What is it? Like number 13 for you or something?
Um, Let me think. I think it's number 11 as but I did 2 other albums as a band leader, so it's 13, but 11 Bruce Katz albums. The first one coming out in 1992. It's
Wow.
amazing. 30 years of putting out albums. Yeah. Um, yeah, I really love and believe in this album. I just, it's a new band. Aaron Lieberman on guitar and singing. He's such a great player and such a great singer, and Liviu Pop on drums. And we really came together as a band and wrote all these tunes. They're all original tunes except for one cover. And you know, I went down to Macon where I had many great times with Greg and JMO and Butch, and went to Capricorn Studios to record it. That was almost an accident that I happened to stumble onto Capricorn and realized that it's back like it was 40 years ago. And it's just a magnificent place to record, and the vibes and the equipment and the room and the gear and everything was just being there. It's a very soulful city, and it was great. So feel like, I feel like it's one of the absolute best things I've ever done. And I don't always say that. Everyone says, "Oh, you say that about every album," but I I have enough space away from it where I can look at it and say, "Yeah, it really is one of the absolute best things I ever did." So,
What makes it different about this one than your other ones?
um,
From your perspective, at least. Yeah.
yeah, good question. I don't know. I just feel like my writing has evolved to a point that I'm just really happy um with what I'm writing, and I'm taking in a kind of a broad spectrum. I got a lot of input from the band, which is really important. I always, I try to write for the people that I'm playing with. Like if I'm playing with a great blues player, let's say, that doesn't play jazz, I'm not going to write jazz tunes. Um, but I got a lot of input from Aaron and Leaveview, and it just was very cohesive. And um, I don't know. Um, I hear the tunes, and I'm just very happy with the playing and the writing.
What about surprises? Were there any surprises while you were putting this album together? It's like, crap, I know I wrote it this way, but man, the way it's coming out is, beyond expectations.
Yeah, there were some surprises. There's a there's a tune called "The Dream" that sort of a psychedelic rock tune. um, and it was pretty well written, but then when we got in there, a whole bunch of parts changed. There was a beautiful Wurlitzer electric piano there that I never envisioned using, and all of a sudden that becomes the centerpiece of the tune, and it really changed the nature of the tune. And some parts and drum things came in, and that tune I think is a really beautiful tune. It was also really nice. Normally it's a three-piece band. I play bass on the organ, like a traditional organ thing. I play piano also, but we had Sean Oakley play bass on 3 of the tunes,
Wow.
and he's the grandson of Barry Oakley, the original
Hmm.
bass player. And it doesn't really have anything to do with that he's the grandson of Barry Oakley. He's just a fabulous, like, 22-year-old bass player with a lot of creativity, and I've gotten to know him, and so he added quite a bit to 3 of the tunes, that I wasn't playing organ bass on. Um, so that was another surprise. I wasn't thinking I was gonna use a bass player at all, but there he was.
It's funny how musicians stumble on that. I mean, look at the Doors, and they did that. They didn't ever have a bass player, but then they had Jerry Sheff drop in on L.A. Woman and such. So it's sometimes you just got to have that bass in there.
Right.
But what about a calling card from the album? I know you can't pick a favorite song, but What about a calling card? Which song would you point to and say, "Hey, if you like this song, you're gonna really dig the rest of the album"?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because you have these piano tunes and you have these organ tunes and a variety of things. I mean, well, that's a hard one, man. I'm not sure. I would say, even though it's the one cover on the tune, I would say maybe "Sneaking Around" with Aaron singing, and um, that it's an old chestnut, but we really play the heck out of it. Or I would say the first tune, which is "Right Here, Right Now," which is a rock and piano thing.
Yeah,
Um,
very cool, very cool. What about, just kinda pulling in, if you don't mind me asking, Greg's been gone for a little while now, Butch has been gone for a little while. What are some thoughts you have about both of those men? I mean, they're missed, I know, and there's such legends in their craft and their impact on society and on music. How do you feel?
oh man, um, I miss both of those guys every day. I was I was in Greg's band for 6 years. We were all traveling together in the same bus and hanging out together. He was very down to earth. He was who you thought he was, which is always nice. Um, um, yeah, and Butch was like one of my best friends, really.
Mhm.
He and I were very close musically. And yeah, I don't even know what to say. I mean, I used to tell Butch, like, hey, man, you invented an entire genre of music. You know, it's not like you were a great band, you were a great rock band or something. You invented an entire style of music that has an entire school of. He didn't like the term Southern rock that much, but whatever you want to call it, jammy, improvisational, blues rock, whatever. Um, but yeah, I think about those guys every day actually, and I miss them. I wish they were around.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So
you're hitting the road. You're coming to my neck of the woods, and you're going to be playing for a while. What can fans expect both at the Knoxville stop and elsewhere on this tour? What have you got in store for us?
well, we of course always play several Allman Brother tunes because I love them. So
Mhm.
you might hear a memory of Elizabeth Reed or Southbound or one of those kinds of tunes. We do a lot of our own tunes. Lee View is an exciting, unpredictable drummer. Aaron is a fantastic, energetic, with a beautiful tone guitar player who's a great singer. I'm kind of flailing away out there. You will hear a lot of energy on stage,
Mhm.
and half vocal, half instrumental. Um, our instrumentals are not like some bands get up and the first tunes and it is sort of a throwaway instrumental tune to warm the band up and then the singer comes on. My instrumental tunes are complete thoughts, and they are special I mean, my first like 6 albums were all instrumental,
Mhm.
uh, believe it or not. Um, so I've spent a lot of time figuring out how to communicate and say something, even if there aren't words. But you will hear um, real blues, real jam kinds of I don't know what to call it, blues rock, New Orleans and piano boogie woogie stuff, and you can groove to it, you can dance to it, or anywhere in, or just listen to it. I mean, it's not, oh, it's ethereal instrumental. No, um, it's kick you in the ass instrumental. How's that?
Hey, I love that kind of stuff. And just why, I mean, I imagine as musicians can often be, you guys probably play certain things a little bit differently each night. Would that be the case?
Oh yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
mean, there's structures and then there's improvisational stuff. And, you know, Aaron and I in particular go way back to like the Grateful Dead.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Like way back. I saw the Grateful Dead, in the early 70s.
Oh,
And
you were in Berkeley, so I imagine you had an opportunity or two, right, to catch them.
yeah. And the concept, and actually the same thing with, when I started playing with Greg and Butch, and occasionally I would do some tours with the Allman Brothers as a second keyboard player. The concept of letting a letting a section just sort of percolate and build and look where it could go anywhere you think that it might go, like without real preconceptions. That's a Grateful Dead thing that I way back when, where they would play tunes, Dark Star and stuff. And
Mhm, mhm,
where's it going to go? Who knows? You know, and I try to keep that path open, and my whole band does. And being that I'm playing bass and organ at the same time, like if I decide to take a left, then we're going to take a left, because
mhm.
I'm the bass player and I'm the organ player. And so, and everybody's real nimble, so we're open to things. We sometimes go into whole other tunes in the middle of tunes because we feel like it, even if we never did it before. um,
Do you feel that the blues is enjoying a special kind of resurgence now? I mean, the blues is already around. There's always going to be people who are blues enthusiasts as fans and listeners. But from where I sit, it seems like blues is really elevating and enjoying a prestige, if you will, among more of the populace instead of more hardcore enthusiasts. Do you see it that way?
Boy, I hope that's true. I hope you're right. I worry about it because it seems like younger audience. When I was 20 years old, the hip audiences listened to blues or blues rock. I mean, Cream and the Allman Brothers,
Right.
and all the bands, um, that played very much blues oriented music. And sometimes I worry about younger audiences. They're not being exposed to it to a certain degree. They would love it, but if you don't ever hear something, you're never gonna hear it. But, maybe you're see I mean, I'm very hopeful, and I do think there is a certain prestige thing. um, I think it would be wonderful, and I'm hopeful. Just trying to get the music out there.
Well, I mean, from my small part of the world, I'm at least to me, it seems like it's growing. There's people really getting into it. The younger ones think it's something new.
Well, that would be just great, man.
Yeah,
I
that,
do notice that when I go into the South, that the audiences tend to be younger, that I see more younger people in the audience than I do in some other parts of the country. I'm not
mhm.
sure why that is. Maybe the music is just more part of the fabric of of society there. I'm not really sure.
That's
But that would be,
interesting.
boy, that would be really great. That would be wonderful. There have been blips. Like I remember in the late 80s or early 90s, you had bands like the Fabulous Thunderbirds and Robert Cray and the
Mhm,
Blasters, and it was like, wow, blues is like back. And then it kind of took a dip again. Um, but I think there is a reaction against machine-made music made by machines for
mhm.
I don't know who.
And
And I think,
AI now.
right, well, that's another issue, man.
Yeah.
But I do think that a lot of people are discovering how exciting it is to see people playing music that has some historical nature and some, link to humanity, and it's not, you know, um, drum machines and stuff.
Yeah. Well, and to what I mean, if they could just realize that when they go see a blues band such as you guys are actually playing. It's not lip syncing, it's not autocorrect, it's not, it's real musicianship and singing taking place, and it's live and it's often improvised, and expanded upon it on the fly. And
Yeah.
if they could just realize that's for real and not a recording being choreographed to, I think that the hook would be even more so, you know?
Right. And it's also there's a lot of emotion going on. I mean, when blues is done for real and it's done sort of right, let's say. I mean, I'm not a blues purist. You listen to my albums and I bring in other elements, but what is always the most important thing to me is the core emotion of what blues is. And then I may layer some other aspects of different musics in there, but it doesn't take away the core. So, you're always going to connect. I'm going to always try to connect in a personal, human way and try to say something with whatever I'm playing or writing. And I think that blues, that's what blues is all about. I think people react, you know.
I agree. I remember hearing my first blues songs I ever heard was some old Elvis stuff on my mom's 45s. And that, I mean, I was like 5 years old, you know, and I think you and I are probably close to the same in age. And so for me to hear that on my mom's 45s and, there's just something to it. Your body reacts, your mind reacts, it paints pictures in your mind of what that song
Yeah.
is about, and it grabs you. It really does.
Yeah, that's funny because that wasn't the first blues stuff that I heard, but I remember when I was still fairly young hearing those Elvis Sun records.
Hmm.
And at the time, I thought, oh, Elvis is a joke. Elvis is a clown. And I heard those first like 15 or 20 sides he did, and I was like, holy cow. He was great. His band, of course, was unbelievably great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Legends. So after the tour, what's on your radar? What do you got going on?
After the tour, let me think. What are we doing? We got some local shows. I'm doing a show at a festival in Pennsylvania with Arlen Roth. I'm on
Oh, yeah.
I'm on his new album called Super Soul Session, I think it's called. Jerry Jamad and I and Eric Parker and Arlen doing all soul stuff. So I have an occasional gig with him. Some of my own gigs locally in the Northeast. We might be making a live album in the late winter um,
Cool.
at this really cool venue in Massachusetts. We are planning European tours and going out to the Midwest in uh, March. I'm not going
Oh,
out.
not January.
We're going out.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, we're going out in mid-March, and maybe we're trying to go all the way to the West Coast this time. I haven't been to the West Coast with my band in like 5 or 6 years. It's tough to make that jump,
Yeah.
uh, but because we play all over the country, about as far as Kansas City and Omaha, and 2/3 the way across the country, and then we only rarely make the jump across Utah and all that stuff. But yeah, we're planning West Coast tour and just continuing on.
Good deal. Well,
Yeah.
one final question for you. You've done a lot of great work. You've been around a while, but you're going to be around a lot longer. I hope and pray because I see a lot in you still. And so, and I hope I get to interview you a lot more in the coming years. And yeah, I'm just kind of kicking myself that we haven't talked any earlier than this. But so maybe every other time we talk, I might ask you this question. It's not intended to be a dark question or anything, but just introspective maybe. And that is, when you step off of the great tour bus of life, up at the great gig in the sky, to borrow from Pink Floyd, how do you hope you're remembered, and what do you hope your legacy is?
Mm. I do have a body of work here, a lot of albums, and I just hope people continue to listen to it, and feel something when they hear it. It's funny as you get older, you realize, like I realize now, I have all this history in me. I sit down at the piano or at the organ. I happen to be sitting at my B3 right now. Um, but because I was trying to remember a tune of mine, but it's weird, man. It's like 30 years worth of albums, and someone will say, "Hey, how about something?" And they'll name a tune that I recorded in 1994 that I wrote, and it's like, I can't remember. Um, and so I've actually the last couple of days I've been going back and just sort of reminiscing on some of my tunes. I mean, I guess I've 11 albums, so I've probably written and recorded over 100 of my own songs, and that's a lot. Sometimes to remember number 36. But anyway, um, yeah, I think that I have staked out. I mean, I don't want to sound like any egomaniac or anything, but I think that my style or the music that I do is different from a lot of people. It's not a pure, like I can play pure blues. I played with John Hammond and I played with Robert Lockwood Jr. and Ronnie Earl. I can play pure jam band stuff and rock and all this stuff. My stuff is sort of that combination of everything, which I don't hear too many people really doing it seamlessly, where
Agreed.
their style is all of those things into one type of style. So, let's see, where was I going with this? I'm not sure. I don't know. I hope that whatever place I have there and people that like listening to it will continue to listen.
I'm sure they will because it cuts deep, man. It really does in all the great ways. And I'm looking forward to catching you live finally. I'll be there a week from this Friday night and in Knoxville at the concourse. And believe it or not, of all the shows I've gone to in Knoxville, I've only lived here 10 years. Um, That'll be the first time I go to the concourse. So
Well, yeah, the concourse doesn't really have much in the way of blues. I guess Michael Gill is putting on shows there, which is really nice. And it's actually this big, beautiful room. I mean, you can put, I don't know how many people, 1,000 people in there if you want to. It's
yeah,
more of a big rock club, but Michael has them, has these shows going on. So it is cool. It's an early show, 6 o'clock.
yep.
Uh, and we'll have we'll have a great time. We were there once before a few years ago, and it was really fun. And there's tons of room. So if you're into the dancing thing, you don't have to sit down. And but it's a great room, actually.
Well, I'm going to be there for sure, and I may be bringing a friend who's a blues enthusiast, and so I'll be there. I'll be cheering you on, and hopefully I can meet you either before or after the show.
Yeah,
And
we'll be there. So
all righty, I may try to get in at load in or something. We'll see.
yeah.
But that, and between now and then, and even after, please stay safe, please stay healthy, keep on rocking, and I look forward to talking to you again in the future. Anytime I can help you on promoting any of your work, especially that live album you're talking about, let's do one of these. I'll do my part to help fans find out about it. Okay.
Oh, man, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks again for taking the time. Thanks for all the great music, and I'll see you next week.
Okay, great.
Take care, my friend. Bye bye.